Hi ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another video. I hope you guys like my pen. Me and my kiddo just made this pen, and it's pretty cool, you know. I told him that's how pens used to be made back in the day, you know, and so we decided to kind of like imitate the process, although not really. But we just found like a whole bunch of feathers, and we decided to like, I don't know. I mean, of course, it was made with an ink, right? And we didn't really have ink. So we just got like the stem of the pen and we put it inside. And so now I have a really cool pen. Anyways, bam. Supposedly having an object in your hand makes you think better. So I'm gonna have this and my coffee, okay? Don't judge me for the coffee, okay? Um, I started drinking it sometimes, okay? Not every single day, but sometimes, and yeah, it's not good, okay? But anyways, guys, I hope you're all doing really well, okay? And hey, to all of my new subscribers, thank you so much for subscribing. And to all my old subscribers, thank you for staying with me. Hopefully you guys are enjoying my videos. Anyway, so guys, in this video, I was going to discuss aging, okay? I'm going to discuss something that none of us want to discuss, and a lot of people, in fact, avoid and are even very delusional about, okay? Even in the spiritual community, you know, nobody really likes to talk about aging, and a lot of them even deny it. You know, a lot of them deny it, and it's understandable why, right? Aging is an extremely vulnerable topic. It makes people vulnerable. It brings out insecurities, right? And it's also unfair, right? It's in a sense it's very unfair, and more often than not, you know, it's like these little transitions, they can be missed by you and while you're living it, right? But we we usually recognize our changes by the people that are around us and by their reactions and the way that they're beginning to interact with us, right? It's like when you notice that, I don't know, my first transition from a child to, I suppose, an adolescence, right, or a preteen, was noticed by the fact that nobody was smiling at me anymore. The adults weren't smiling at me anymore. And that was so sad, you know, that was so sad because I missed that so much. And I noticed that when I became a preteen, everyone suddenly stopped smiling, you know, and that was sad, okay? And of course, the next transition is noticed by, you know, when people start calling you ma'am, right? Or I don't know, you know, in America, right? People. Oh, by the way, this is my new kitten also. Yeah, you guys, meet Muffin. Mwah. He's amazing. He's the cutest little one. Anyway, so yeah, when people start calling you ma'am, right, and just teenagers are treating you differently, right? Maybe people are asking you if you're married, right, and so on, right? So these are like these are indications of you getting older, right? And like I said, we might not even notice these things, or it's very hard to notice it when you're seeing yourself every single day, right? And once again, there's some denial when it comes to that. You might notice it, but you might want to just deny it because it's too painful to face, right? Or to accept. I also noticed this about my grandmother. You know, my grandmother, we were out and about once, and you know, her friend came up to us and we were just talking, and she was like, oh, and she came up to my grandma and she was like, look at her, you know, she pointed to me. She's like, do you remember those days when we were young and when we were, you know, just carefree, and now we're just two old ladies, you know, and she said something like that basically, right? But you should have seen the reaction on my grandmother's face. You know, my grandma was like, she seemed like she was in complete shock, right? Because the woman spoke the truth, and my grandmother, she was, you know, she's a narcissist, right? And she's narcissist when it comes to even aging. You know, they're to begin with, they're in complete denial of everything, of pretty much most of reality. But when it comes to them, their physical bodies and aging, yes, they're in denial of that too. So her friend, she, you know, she like popped the balloon basically, you know, and my grandma was just in complete shock. She looked like she was in disbelief for a moment, and I looked at her. I was like, oh my God. And I could understand what was happening. I understood what was happening at that moment, and it made me question everything. I was like, yeah, it made me think about, you know, aging. You know, it made me think about aging and how people are more often than not are in denial of it once again, right? In the spiritual community and everywhere actually, right? Just because a person is spiritual doesn't mean that they're, I mean, in most cases, of course, a very spiritual person, right? A person that's that is connected to the divine, the way they were able to connect to the divine in the first place is by, you know, removing the illusions, right? Removing the illusions out of their lives, right? And getting really, really honest with themselves. Because that's how we connect to the divine. That's how we connect to ourselves, right? Without doing that, you know, it would be impossible to connect to the divine. We would still be very much in our ego, right? And catering to our illusions. So yeah, that's another interesting thing, right? But like I said, guys, just because someone was able to get honest about with themselves about most things, still it doesn't mean that there aren't still some perhaps delusions that they still have to remove. That can still be present, and you know, it's a work in progress, right? And so, and that is especially true when it comes to our age, you know. And anyways, guys, once again, aging, you know, it is vulnerable and it's unfair, right? But it also opens space for, you know, connection and humility and compassion, okay? And so, guys, you know, God allows for aging, I believe, to, you know, ultimately give us a chance to, He takes something that's permanent, right? And He gives us a chance to replace this with something that's lasting, which is your internal positive qualities, right? Like humility and compassion and empathy and so much more, basically, right? And so, and wisdom, right? Wisdom, that's also, of course, one of them that's so important. And wisdom is something that narcissists lack, and that's why the aging process for a narcissist is so terrible. I would say it's extremely painful, because you can't escape from aging. You can see this in Hollywood, right? In Hollywood, you know, and we all age, no matter, you know, even if some of us age slower, right? Because of course science proved that, you know, we have telomeres, and there's a way to stop those telomeres from shortening too fast. And that's of course through keeping your stress down and doing certain things, rituals, right? That, I mean, I'm not talking about like witchy rituals. I'm talking about like, I don't know, taking cold water showers, right? After warm showers, okay? Or diving into cold water and just doing things like that, okay? But like I said, and keeping your stress down, of course, that's a major one. Of course, nutrition, right? And fresh air and quality foods, right? Guys, all of those things, of course, they will slow down the aging process. And there's absolutely a way to stop the aging process or to slow it down, I mean, significantly, right? Uh, eh, One of those ways for women can also be, having less children. But look, I'm not going to advocate for that because I love children and children are amazing, okay? And we're not going to get into that, okay? But guys, having children takes a huge toll on women and their physical health and the way that they look externally even, okay? So studies show that women who have more children, they of course start aging faster, okay? And of course that has to do with stress too, guys, because having children is extremely stressful. But anyways, I'm not gonna get into that, right? But what I'm trying to say is that really, guys, no matter how we try to escape the aging process, it will still happen, okay? We can do certain things to slow everything down, to slow the aging process down. We can even have surgery, right? That's a big thing nowadays. But still, there's no escaping it. There's no escaping it. And even celebrities with a ton of money, with billions of dollars, they cannot escape it, okay? And eventually the aging process catches up to them, okay? So there's that, right? Maybe in the future this can change, but I don't know if that's a good thing. And I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to get into 5 reasons, okay? 5 different reasons on why we age, okay? And so guys, the first reason, okay, is that free will and the consequence of choice, right? And so in the Bible, it talks about how we began to age because because of our free will, right? And because of the consequence of our choice, and that's to sin, right? And so that kind of goes hand in hand with the free fall, with stepping into sin and aging, okay? And so in turn we started aging, right? And so aging is part of the brokenness of the world, not God's original design too, right? And so that there's that too. Okay, so the second reason, guys, okay, it's the growth through change and impermanence, right? That's according to the Eastern philosophies. Okay, Buddhism and Hinduism view aging as part of the natural cycle of life, right? Which is birth, decay, death, and rebirth, right? So aging reminds us to detach from the illusion of permanence, helping us grow spiritually and emotionally, which of course makes a lot of sense, right? And that's, you guys, and that's also why you often see, and we act so surprised when maybe perhaps someone was a certain way when they were younger, right? And then they change when they get older. And we act so surprised and we act like that person didn't change, right? Perhaps that person maybe was doing immature things, right? Or engaging in, I don't know, maybe they were physically, or maybe they were very promiscuous, right? And then when they have gotten older and more mature and more wise, they stopped doing that. And we're still acting as if, oh yeah, that person, that they just hit the wall, right? Maybe if you're talking about, I don't know, males and females can hit a wall, right? Or that's just such a, I think, stupid term, as much as I hate to label things, okay? But I just don't like that because it's, I think it's created by narcissists, who are like immature, and you know, and it's just a stupid term, I don't know, right? But hitting the wall is like getting older, right, basically. And some of us act like, you know, oh, she can no longer, or he can no longer do this anymore, right? So they became like a nun, right? Or they became proper, right? But no, actually people change, right? People change with time, and you would hope that they would change. And I think a lot of them, a lot of us do change. Some of us don't, but some of us do, right? And so that's very natural. It comes with age, with more wisdom, with experience, right? And so yeah, it's not such a surprising thing if you think about it. Anyways, number 3 is mortality as motivation, right? So if we lived forever, we might not value time, right? Relationships or meaning. Aging brings urgency and beauty of life. It pushes us to love, forgive, create, and to make peace while we can. Without aging, that would have been a lot harder to do, even though we would still technically have experience under our belt, right? And in turn, experience might bring wisdom, but we might have a completely different perspective if we didn't age. And guys, from a biological standpoint, okay, aging allows for evaluation, adaptation, and renewal. If we didn't age, populations would stagnate. Nature chose aging to make room for new generations and innovation. Okay, so it's sort of like evolution, right? Yeah, and lastly, guys, it's a test of refinement. Okay, so in many religious traditions, life is a temporary phase, and I love this one in particular. Okay, aging is the gradual letting go of the physical so we can focus more on the spiritual or eternal. It's not punishment, but preparation. And so this is my favorite point of view, and I really definitely, it aligns with my way of thinking too. That it's not punishment, it's preparation. It prepares us, and it lets us focus on the internal positive qualities that ultimately matter the most. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for subscribing, for liking my videos, for commenting. It means a lot, guys. If you haven't checked out my courses and my books, please do so. It would mean the world if you guys would support this channel in any way that you can. If you feel like you would like to donate, please donate. I'm a single mama, and I would absolutely appreciate that and love that. You guys, and if you enjoyed this video, comment and let me know your thoughts on this, okay? Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.